What is going on, everybody? Yes, that's new intro. The Breakevens are back for a Christmas special. My name is Corey, and as always, I've got Jack with me.
Hello.
Alrighty, so for those who do not know us, we are the Breakevens. This is our second season of doing AFL Supercoach related podcasts. Um, bas- Basically, for those who don't know us, we just each week we give our opinions on what we think of certain players, averages, break even, so cash gen, everything super coach really. And this podcast will be on the team picker that has been released for Herald Sun members and Supercoach Gold members, or in Jack's case, if you didn't have either of those, you can do it anyway. So basically, what we're going to do today is go through some overpriced players, possibly, and some underpriced players, and that all depends on what they're priced at and what that average means, and if we think they can go higher or lower. So we're not going to do everyone, but we'll just do most of the relevant ones in our opinions anyway. So um, I think I'll start off, Jack, if that's okay with the defense.
You can.
Alrighty, so I'm starting at not the very top, but the second step of the top, and that is James Sicily. He's coming in at 624,700 Supercoach dollary dues. And with my calculations and the doings of Supercoach and their algorithm, sorry, he comes in at
Rap
114,
God.
Rav God, 114.7 average. So for those who start Sicily, you're banking on 114 straight away. If he averages less, then he is overpriced. Now, he averaged roughly that last year. I think he was around 113, 114 last year. So it's basically the exact same. Um, I think he's a must start and could potentially go higher. So he might be slightly unders, but if not, I reckon bang on the money. Next, we go down a little bit to someone who was everyone's hero 2 years ago and everyone's devil last year, and that was Aaron Hall. We know 2 seasons ago he averaged 120. Last year, a lot of injuries, which um, who would have thought Aaron Hall getting injured? Not me. He comes in at $538,600 dues, and that's an average of 98.9. We know he can score high, and we know he can score low when he picks his hamstring every 5 weeks. So that 98.9 average, I think it's a bit risky. He can definitely go higher. He's the potential to go higher. But with all those injuries, do you want to pay that much for someone who might miss half the season? So next, we'll go down a little bit more to Mason Redmond, the man that killed Jordan Ridley last year, coming in at $510,900 dues. That is an average of 93.4. I think he can definitely go above that. 93, I reckon he could push 100 plus. So he could be someone for your teams in defense that little bit cheaper, could be that D3 spot, and could definitely do well depending on if he has the same role or not. Next is the Seagull, who did not Seagull last year, and that's a Lloyd, Jake Lloyd, $507,300 dues, which is an average of 93.1. I think the ship has sailed on the Seagull. His role is different with all the young guys coming through. But if you think for some reason he is going to go back to the Seagull that we love, could definitely be a great, cheaper option for your team. Next is the Brownlow medalist for this year, Nick Dacos, coming out 502,500, and that is an average of 92.2, which I think is probably around the right price for him. He could definitely go higher. He has the chance to get those high scores, but also has the chance to go a bit lower. I don't think anything under 80 though. So um, you're probably looking around that 92 average there. Do I think you should start him if he gets more midfield time? Possibly. But if he plays that halfback role, I'd probably stay away this year and maybe have a look next year, but he could prove me wrong. Next is Harry Himmelberg, 499k. He was everyone's saviour last year, but that's the average of 91.6. Do we think he can go higher? Probably not. What I'm hearing is he might be playing a lot more forward this year under the new coach. So I think Himmelberg is a complete stay away. Next is Andy McGrath from the Bombers, $478,700 dues at an average of 87.9. I think he could be an unders here. Um, with talks that he will be playing that halfback role, which he dominated in for parts of I think 2 years ago it was before he got injured. At 87, I think he could maybe average 95 plus. So he's definitely someone I've been looking at, but he's not in my squad at the moment, even though we're like 4 months away. Next, Christian Salem, $390,400 at an average of 71. Now, this is someone who, if stays fit, could easily average that 90 plus, which means he will probably make you 80 to 100k. Is he top 8 defender? Probably not. But is someone who can go cheaper to start with, and then you can swap him to a fallen premium, I guess, later in the rounds. Next is Elliot Yo-Yo at $337,000. That's an average of 61.8. We've seen before Elliot Yo can score points, but unfortunately he's had a lot of injuries. So is he an option? Possibly, if you want to risk it. I think there are better options that are 100k less. Well, at least minimum 20k less, but some 100k less. So I'd probably stay away from him just because of injuries. But if he has a full season, he's going to average that 90 plus for you. Next, Jack, your boy Hunter Clark, $315,200. That's an average of 57.8. This guy showed last year he could average 90, 95. Scored some big hundreds in the last few seasons. Just needs to stop getting injured. Like last year, he had a broken jaw, which was not good. I think he was going for a tackle and just came off the wrong end. So
Yeah, the last couple of years he's just had injuries that haven't been caused by him.
yep. So if he can stay fit, I think he averages 90 to 95 again, which means he's going to make you 150k odd. So you look at that, that's 500k. So it could be a lot easier. It could be one downgrade, one upgrade there. Hunter Clark mid-season. Next is Liam Jones, who retired due to COVID and picked up as a free agent from the Bulldogs, $228,100, and that's an average of 41.8. We know what we get from Jones: intercept marks, kick outs, kicks, loves to kick, does not like to handball, and he's usually decent by foot as well. So for him to make 150k, he needs to average 76, and I think he can easily do that. I think he'll average 85, so he might be looking 180k to 200k profit there. Great stepping stone at 228k could be a nice D4. Talking about D4s, Nick Caulfield did a ACL, was it, Jack? I believe.
Yes.
And he's coming back $38,800, which is an average of 38.3. This is someone who can average you 90 easily if fit. Running midfielder, loves to kick the ball. He'll probably take some kickouts as well, you would think. Um, Someone I'm definitely looking at. Um, but in saying that, um, he could easily re-injure his knee. I think what is Jack? Is it 31%?
I thought it was like 33 or 35, you said.
Yeah, that they do it in the next 24 months. Just quickly, I did miss one person, silly me, and that's Jack Bowes, 277,500. So you're probably looking around that 50 average. Um, Went to Geelong. Apparently, he's basically set to play games just if he stays fit, which hopefully he does. But I think he's a very popular option. I've got him in my side, so Jack Bowes, keep an eye on him. And last one for defense is McKenna, the Irishman from Essendon, who's now gone to the Lions. 167,500, an average of 30. Could easily average you 75 to 80, which will make that 150k that you need. And I think everyone's going to pick him round one if he is there round one. So those are all the defenders. Jack, I think you were going to take us through your forwards, so you can go with that.
I was. And starting off, we've got Josh Dunkley, 596,400, which is an average of 109. I don't think he improves on that, but I don't think he lowers it. I think he sits about there. He's gonna obviously going to Brisbane. His role might change a little. We don't know. But going off if he plays the same role, I can't see him averaging more or less. Or if it's less, it'd be like by point five or a one. Next, got Cogs Canelio 557,700, which is an average of 102. I don't think he improves on that. If anything, depending on how the Giants play with Kingsley, I think he can actually go lower, which might be a bit of a surprise. I think he'll sit around that 95 to 98 mark. So I'm saying he's overpriced. The same with my next player, Isaac Heaney, 557,100 with the average of 102. We saw it towards the end of last year, middle to end of last year. He struggled to get points up after a very strong start, which pushed his average down. So I'd say he's a bit overpriced and he's going to drop his average by a little bit. He might stay at that 100 mark. If not, he'd be 99, 98. Um, the next one is my man. I raved about him all last year, and that's Dylan Moore, 521,000, which is an average of 96 or 95.6. I rounded up with most of these
Nice.
from the point five just to make it a bit easier. Um, I think he's under. I think he can easily average 100 to 105. He's shown last year that he was very consistent throughout the season. My next one is an interesting one, and I think he's a bargain, and that's Connor Rosie at 513,800, which is an average of 94. I think he's going to go up and average that 100 to 105 mark, especially if he keeps that little rotation into the midfield that he had last year. Um, my next one, who I also think is underpriced, is Tim Taranto at 503,100. That is at an average of 92, and I think that he plays the role that me and a lot of other Richmond fans can see, he can easily average that 105 to 110 range and arguably be the most expensive forward at the end of the season. My next one is Shy Bolton at 480,800, which is an average of 88. Um, I honestly think he can push towards that 100 this season. I'm saying he's underpriced. I'm saying it's risky on the roll with how Richmond did their whole, like, what do you call it, pre-season, post-season trading and bringing in players. It's risky on his role, but he showed last season when he goes into the midfield, he can go off, which goes into my next person who is around the same price, and he's Dustin Martin at 480,400.
Do you want any
It's
more
an
Richmond players, mate? Far out.
Oh, mate, there's heaps more to come. Don't worry. Um, an 88 average. He had a very hard last season with off-season issues, and then his kidney. Um, and at 480,400, I can see a lot of people jumping straight on him. He can easily go back to averaging that 100. But with Shy Bolton, it's very risky because we don't know if he's going to spend a lot more time forward with the inclusions Richmond has had this year. Um, but he's definitely one to look out for. The next one think is underpriced, and that's Errol Gordon at 472,000. Yeah, that's an 87 average. I think he can easily push up to that 95 to 105 range. So I'd say it's underpriced. The next one I think is the biggest bargain in the forward line, and that is Toby Green, 421,000, which is an average of 77. I think he's well underpriced. Had a slow start to the season, missing the first 5 weeks due to being an idiot. Um, and I think with Taranto and Hopper going, his role changes a bit slightly with more midfield time, and his points go back up to that 100 to 105 mark again. I'm saying it's a get on job. My next one is Ben Cunnington at 419,000, which is also a 77 average. And if he's able to get consistent game time this year, I reckon like a few years ago, he will be bullying people his way to 105 and 110 around that mark. So I'm saying he is also great value, but North Melbourne new coach or role, he's um he's missed a lot of time with his cancer, which he's back from. But he could have a new role under Clarkton. He might not play midfield. We just don't know. So it's one to keep an eye on. My next one is Nat Fife at 313,600, which is an average of 57.5. And if he averages 92.5, that makes him 150k. I think with Toby Green, it's fantastic value, but he's a lot more risky. One, because of his role last season changed to more forward, and I think it could stay with the upcoming mids Fremantle have and how well they played consistently last season. And it's Nat Five. The last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, he's been injured every year, so yeah, it's a bit scary. My next one, I think, is bargain towards the rookie end, and that's Oscar Allen at 210,200. It's a 39 average to and a 74 average to make that 150k. I think he's amazing value at the rookie end. With Kennedy gone, I can see him jumping to being the number 2 forward, and he should keep his second ruck spot that he had before his injury. So it's amazing. Um, Next one is Tipper McDonald Tipping Woody, 209,600. He's back from retirement, and it has him at an average of 38 and an average of 73 to make 150k profit. I think it's hard to evaluate him because he's missed a whole season due to retirement, but he was around that 65 to 75 average the season before, which makes him I'd say a 50-50 chance to get that 150K profit. So to me, I'd rather go Oscar Allen for the extra 800 coins or dollars over Tippum Woody, just because I feel like it's more certain.
Yep.
Next one is Toby McLean at 178,900, which is a 33 average and 68 average for 150K profit. Amazing value. As long as he stays fit. I think it was when he last 2 seasons got the Bulldogs, he averaged 80 to 90, I think it was. I can't fully remember.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. But if he goes back to that, he is going to be the Canelio of this year and the bargain price of the year. Which goes on to my next one, Ben King at 176,300, a 32 average and a 67 average for 150K, which I can see him making more depending on how Gold Coast play last season. Without him, their midfield dominated, um, much improved over the course that Banking's been there. And if they are firing like they were last season with him up forward, I can see as potential to have a big year, averaging that 80 to 90 mark and possibly winning the Coleman medal.
Ooh,
And my
good call.
last forward is Taron Thomas. I was very do I, don't I, at 295,700. That's an average of a 54 and an average of 89 to make the 150K. Very risky off last season as he averaged 2 touches with Aidan Bonner, but he's shown from the season before that he can easily average 89 for fun and make some money.
Very good, very good. Yeah, Thomas has the potential, but I think his mind's a bit all over the place. So hopefully Clarkson can pull his head in,
All
and
he said,
if he doesn't place Mitchell time, that could be a very good get. All right, I'll take you through the mids next. So next to start at the very top, the most expensive player in Supercoach, which is Rory Laird at 703,900, which is an average of 129.2. Overpriced. It is very, very rare you see someone average 129. You're looking more at 120, possibly 125. But I think he's still someone you start just because of how consistent he is. But in saying that, if you want to um, save some money, I can see people not jumping on him and getting him a bit cheaper. I don't think he goes below 650K, so you're probably saving 50K there. But he's definitely someone you will need by end of season. Next is Clary Oliver, 699,800, average of 128.5. Similar with Laird, that 128, very hard to see happening. You're looking more at 125, so he's a bit overs, but just scores for fun, and he's good for a double hundred each year against Adelaide. So definitely an option to start. Next is Lockie Neal, 676,200, average 124.1, and I think that's basically spot on for Lockie Neal. Has had a full season with not really any injuries, a few niggles here and there, and we saw what he did, and we got him cheaper. Um, and he won't drop too much money if he starts on a heater, which he usually does anyway. So definitely a good get. Next is someone who's slightly underpriced. That's Jack Steele. Injuries last year kept him out. He didn't have the role last year either. 604,400, which is an average 111. This man can easily average 120. Um, I think he started around 700K last year, so you get him just under 100K cheaper this year. Definitely someone I am looking at if he stays fit, and if he brings that defensive part of his game back. Yeah, easy 120s there. Next is Luke Davies Uniac, 557,400, which is an average 102.3. Had a great season last year. Almost a breakout season, I would say. Could this be the year? I think it might. I think he can average that 110, 115. Absolute ball tackles and has worked on his kicking, which is important. So if he hits the scoreboard a bit more often, I think he could be a good cheaper get, but I probably won't be starting him personally. Next is Tom Green, 534,600, average 98.1. As Jack said with Canelio earlier, you've had Hopper and Taranto leave. I think this makes Tom Green the number one midfielder there. Um, so he could easily average that 110, 115. So it could be a great cheap option. Talking about cheap options, Tom Mitchell, 528,600 to average of 97. Um, didn't have the role with Hawthorn last year. Um, has gone to the Pies and will basically be that ball for us. So I think easily average 115. So he's a very good get and cheap get. Next is Paddy Dangerfield, 457,300 at average of 83.9. You'd say slightly unders. I think he averaged that 95 to 100, but he's not the player that we're used to. Um, Less mid time, a bit more forward. He's got the premiership now, so he doesn't have to try as hard. Um, I think, yeah, it's to stay away from Dangerfield. But sticking with the Cats, next is Sam Metagola, 334,000 flat, which is average 63.1. Um, Injuries last year, found himself out of the team, found it hard to get back in. Um, he has been someone who has averaged over 100 or around that 100 mark anyway. If he does that again, he's making me 150k, so looking around that 500k mark, around halfway. Someone who I think is going under the radar, but I'd check to see if he's playing first. Next, Jacob Hopper, 332,000 flat at 60.9, has gone to the Tigers. Again, injuries last year, and his role when he came back wasn't there. But I think at Richmond, their mids are getting a bit older. I think he slips straight in there and is the ball that he could be. Could easily average 95 to 100, which again is making 150k there. Dom Sheed, the same price as Hopper, 332,000 at the same average as 60.9. And out there, someone who has averaged that 90 to 95. If he does that again, he makes 150k, as I said. Needs to stay fit, and if he stays fit and has the right role, again, he's going to make you cash. So it's, I
And
think,
just he just hopes he can play Collingwood for 23 rounds.
shut up. Um, Definitely someone. I feel like it's between Hopper and Sheed there for that, I guess, M5 spot. And lastly, towards the rookie end, I've got Will Phillips from the Roos, 158,300. High touted draft pick. Found it hard to get into the side and play consistent games at an average of 29. If he finds his way in under Clarkson, he can easily average 70 plus, which means he's going to make you about 200k. So you're looking around that 350k mark, which you could easily downgrade him and get 200k there to upgrade someone else. So that's all I've got there. Jack, you go through the rucks.
Yes, I will. And I'm starting with the number one ruck of last year and the last couple of years, Maxwell Gorn at 622,100. That has him at an average of 114. Look, I think he can easily average more, but with Grundy coming in, how are those two going to play? How does it affect? I think it's very scary to start with him, just because we don't know how they're going to play together. I think they can still average 100 each, but it's scary with the thought that they both will probably be doing 50-50 time in the ruck at best,
Yep.
which is obviously less tap outs and less time up the ground. Next one is Jared Witts at 605,100. My King from last season, an average of 111. I think he stays around there. It could probably possibly be a little lower. So I'd say he's just right, maybe a little overpriced. Next one, Tim English at 581,000, which is 107 average. I think he can average around that 110 to 115 mark. So I'd say he's slightly underpriced.
Yep.
But with Tim English, we saw him get knocked out by a flying football, so we never know what happens with him. Next one, Sean Darcy at 562,200, which is an average of 103. I'm saying underpriced. I reckon he can go back hitting that 110 to 115 mark. Just needs a consistent full season, and with Freo's midfield developing and the inclusion of Jaeger O'Meara, I can see more tap to advantage marks going towards his name, which hopefully we can see some of those 190s and 205 scores from a couple of seasons ago.
Yep. Would
My
be good.
next one, who is similar, Riley O'Brien at 560,500, which is the average of 103 as well. Um, with how Adelaide's list is, I can't see him jumping, but I can't really see him losing. So I'd say he's at the price that he will be. Like, I can't see him jumping up and down too much. But with Riley O'Brien, we know how big he can go when he's firing. Next one, Grundy at 512,900, which is an average of 94, um, which makes him heavily underpriced because we know Grundy last season he averaged 104, I believe it was, for his limited games. So that's already 10 on what they list him as. But like I said, we've gone. The role that they're playing, both of them will be different. So, will they score the same? We can't say right away. So, it's a bit of a risky one, but we know what Grundy can do.
Yep.
Next one is Rowan Marshall at 506,500, which is a 93 average. I think he's underpriced and he can get back to scoring that 105 to 110 range. So he's someone to look at for a cheaper ruck. The next one, who I think could possibly, with another one, be Bargain Ruckman of the Year, which is Darcy Cameron at 465,900, which has him at an average of 85.5. It has him to make 150k and reach that 600k mark. He has to average 120.5, which I can't see any ruck doing.
Mm-hmm.
But that shouldn't scare you away because with Grundy gone, he's pretty much cemented number one ruck. And we saw what Darcy Cameron did last year with consistent 110 plus scores for a good 7 or 8 rounds.
Yep.
So he's definitely one to look at. And my next one, my last one, the one with Cameron, who I think could be bargain of the year, is the big fella Lloyd Meek at 431,100, which is an average of 79, but 114 to make 150k. I'm not too scared about the making 150k, as I can see him scoring 105 to 110 this year if he's given a number one ruck, which is highly, is it touted or hinted
Yep.
at?
Touted.
They like hinted towards him being the number one ruck, which can boost that 1-5, 1-10 scores. I just keep a watch on with preseason, and if he's been shown that he's the number one ruck, I'd say jump on at that price.
Yep. Nice. Yep. So, a few things there. Sean Darcy, there's footage and stuff of him looking fit and clunking marks, which was his big problem last year. So if he returns to form, that could be crazy good. And just on Lloyd Meek, it all depends on Ned Reeves and what Mitchell wants to do there. But awesome, Jack. So that's it for that. Before we sign off, just a few things for those who don't know. We've been active all over the off season. We've had um, our English Premier League fantasy. We've had our World Cup fantasy that just finished. BBL fantasy's just started. So there's a lot going on, and that's all on our Twitter. So you can find us on Twitter at the Breakevens Pod. And for those that are listening to Apple Podcasts, you can catch any of our podcasts on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube. So search the Breakevens and you'll find us there. So anything else to add, Jack, before we
I've got nothing, no.
nothing awesome. So looking at our schedule, we will be back full time from so we are back 11th of January. That will be over on YouTube. Search the Break Evens. You'll find us there or Apple Podcasts as well. If you want to um, interact with us, that'll be on our Twitter at Break Evens Pod. Search it, you'll find our logo there. If you have any questions about preseason, any players that we didn't put down today, and talk about and you want to know, put it down. We always reply to everyone as much as we can. So find us down there. All right, that's it for today. So Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody, and we will see you on the 11th of Jan. So until then, it's bye for now.
See ya.